Today we're looking at a video why the tech job market crashed, and it's this one here from Sundas. She's doing great videos, so give her a like and follow her channel. By the way, my prediction is AI and tech companies overextending themselves, and now we have to pay for it because they need to actually let people go, and also the whole funding for tech companies is going down, especially in the AI sector. Let's check it out.
A few years ago, knowing how to code could get you 3 job offers on the spot. Today, you're lucky if you get 3 callbacks. The job market.
Yeah, I don't know if it has been that immediate, but it was actually crazy because you could apply if you had SQL, Python, and some more coding experience or platform experience in Databricks and so on, you were basically hired.
Market feels brutal. Layoffs every week, hiring freezes, reorgs, and corporate politics at all-time high if you're lucky to even have a job. And if you're a new grad, you are not just competing with other juniors, you are competing with other seasoned engineers with 3 years, 4 years, or even 5 years of experience. So yeah.
Yeah, but that is just because basically the junior roles are gone. And that's why people think the job market is brutal right now. It is. And the junior roles are gone. That's why you have to basically look at full engineer jobs, and that is hard to get.
It feels like golden era of tech is over, but is it really? Here is what no one tells you. 2 things can be true at the same time. Yes, the market is tougher than ever. Tech is still growing, just in different places. So the real question isn't, is tech dead? It's how do you build your career in the new version of tech? So what exactly is happening in the job market? Let's start with the real data, not just the headlines.
Okay.
According to layoffs.fyi, more than 320,000 tech workers have been laid off globally in just the last 18 months.
Crazy, right? Past 18 months, 300,000. Wow. And of course that is a lot because you now need less workers, because AI with Claude can do so much stuff and can save so much time. And that's why it's also hard for juniors, right? Because the things that juniors used to do can now be done with Claude and so on. So
most of those cuts hit recruiting, middle management, and technical roles. But here's the part most headlines skip. Tech hiring is still up 8% year over year, especially in AI, data infrastructure, and cloud.
So AI, there's an hype, right? People are still hyped. Data infrastructure, you always need. That's where the engineering is done. That's where data engineers as well sit. Cloud as well. You need to have people who develop for the cloud, who develop in the cloud. So the engineering roles and the AI roles that are hyped up. But what AI roles are there?
Cloud. So if the hiring is up, why does everyone still feel bad? Here is the real tea, and it's not AI taking jobs. During COVID, tech companies saw a massive digital boom. Everything was online, everything moved online, sales grew.
See where this is going? Overextending themselves.
Usage grew, revenue grew, stock grew, and companies assumed that the growth would last forever. They built hiring plans on overly optimistic forecast models and overhired like crazy.
I mean, as if the economy and the revenue is always going up. Has there ever been a time where this happened? Oh, of course not. So
Teams doubled overnight, new orgs were spun up, roles were created without long-term need. Fast forward to today, the world
creating roles without long-term need. That basically doesn't make sense, right? Why are you creating these roles anyway? So
world normalized, but the payroll stayed. Companies blame AI because it's easy. But let's be honest, AI is not replacing entire teams yet. We are nowhere close to that. As somebody who is a power user of AI, that includes you and me, we all know that AI is not there yet. What is...
It's a lot there. And especially, as I said, in these things where juniors usually go to, and juniors learn, and juniors have jobs that are based on, okay, we're going to tell you what to do, and you're going to take that part of the system and you're going to improve that, or you're going to code that part of the whole process of the pipeline. That's gone.
Actually happening is this. AI is extremely expensive to run. Running one large language model prompt costs 1 cent to 10 cents. That sounds tiny, right? Until you scale it. At 20 million prompts a month, a company is burning 200,000 to 2 million per month in just inference cost alone. That's before GPUs, infra, or salaries. So
I'm not sure about that. Yes, it's expensive, but think of it. Even if you have a plan on Claude Code that is super expensive, what's the highest plan on Claude Code right now? One sec. So this, not using the API, right? This is right now, the highest is $200 a month. What's a team plan, enterprise plan? Let's look at enterprise plans and team plans. So enterprise is, a team plan is premium seats 100 per member per month. Team plan support up to 150 seats. Doesn't matter. Let's say it's 500. Let's say it's 1,000, right? If it's 1,000 and your team can actually save one person, right? That person makes 100K per year. It's easy to say, okay, we can replace that person with that. 500, 1,000, doesn't matter. So it's still expensive, but these simple roles, that's where you can save a lot of money.
But now companies are juggling two massive cost pressure: the cost of their COVID overhiring and the cost of trying to catch up in the AI race. Some people also believe companies overhired H-1B talent during the boom or are offshoring work to cut labor costs. And while it's a sensitive topic, it's part of the conversation candidates are having.
Well, that always was the case, right? I remember here in Germany, the large companies, they outsource, they move the labor to India and so on. That's something new, not really.
In my opinion, companies cut headcount not because of AI or to replace people, but because AI is draining budget that used to pay for people. The layoffs aren't about AI taking jobs. They're about companies paying for past mistakes and candidates like you and me feeling it. We all know that AI adoption is rising across the board and the job market is shifting with it. The question most people have is what this actually means for their career. Before I jump into the case study, I want to give a quick shout out to Perplexity's Comet AI browser for partnering on this segment of the video. Comet can read a job description and pull the right job requirements and customize your resume based on the job posting that you're applying to. In addition to this, there are two other use cases where Comet has been really, really helpful for me. Number one is for finding coding solutions on Stack Overflow with Comet. Number two is triggering AI Assistant into any web page, including Python documentation or a research paper that is 20 pages long. In addition to these two use cases, there are 5 other use cases that I personally love using Comet for. You can watch the full video here. You can try Perplexity Comet for free using the link in description below. Now let's talk about what candidates are actually going through in the job market when they are job searching. Let's actually zoom in and look at a case study.
That's going to be interesting because what they usually, from my experience working with people on this, they send out a lot of applications. They oftentimes get 0 replies. If they get a reply, they are going to get invited to an interview on Zoom, which either is going to go well or they're going to be ghosted. So it's really tricky. The only thing that I have had success with working with people is tuning the resume, making the resume so much better, being more concrete, showing up of more the stuff that you have actually done. That is actually what's helping. But let's continue.
of what exactly is happening in the job market and specifically the candidate experience. I recently spoke to Pooja Dutt on my channel, who's a software engineer with over 3 years of experience at Microsoft. She assumed that her FANG experience would open doors for her. But here's what she told me.
How many jobs did you apply to?
I didn't apply for that many. I would say like 25.
25. And how many did you get a call back?
Not even job offers.
Hey, that's a good number. Some people would be very happy with 2.
2 callback. And she later told me that none of those 2 interviews converted into an actual job offer, even with big tech experience.
That's how it
She
is.
eventually decided to take a
Also, people always like overhyping FANG experience. I'm happy to see this finally go, because there are so many people who work in smaller companies who do really awesome work, but it's just because the name of the company isn't Netflix, Amazon, and so on. They don't get the jobs. That I like to see that go, because very often also in these smaller companies, you have to do more things. You have to be responsible for more parts of the whole development of the whole system. And that is really, really, really cool from a job working perspective. And I actually like this. I think it's good.
break from corporate environment altogether. She also talked about something that we don't talk about often, which is privilege. She had enough savings, so she's treating this time as short sabbatical. In reality, most people don't have that flexibility. All the numbers and data and stories point to a really sad picture of the job market, but here is what you can actually control and focus on. Here are 3 things that you should be focusing on if you aren't already. Number 1, specialize and show proof. You can't look like a generalist anymore. Pick a clear lane, backend analytics, engineering, ML ops, AI product, whatever it is. Pick a lane and go in depth and specialize.
Yeah, that is a very good idea. But also be very specific on where in engineering, where in ML ops. Look for things that AI can't do, and be wary of, okay, I don't focus on development. I focus on the whole picture. I work with stakeholders. I'm trying to go more outside. What's the right word? I'm trying to be responsible for the whole pipeline and not just a part. These things are very important because AI cannot work directly with these people. It's difficult to extract the right information from people because oftentimes they don't even know what they need. And these kind of work, that is super important.
Specialize in it. For example, for me, my specialty is A/B testing, experimentation in a digital e-commerce space, and specifically in a large search engine. Number 2 is become AI productive. You don't need to be an AI engineer, but you do need to work with AI. That means using AI to code faster, analyze smarter, automate tasks, and speed up your workflow. Remember, somebody using AI will not replace you, but they will outperform you.
They will outperform you, but if you're a junior right now, they're also going to replace you. That's what she's not telling you. But of course, you need to understand, where can I use AI? Which AI am I going to use for what? When am I going to use the chat interface? When am I going to use the integrated agent in my dev environment? And so on and so on. That's very important.
And number 3, networking. Cold applications are basically dead. Referrals, relationship, and visibility are moving the needle now. Reach out to hiring managers, join meetups, DM people who work at the companies that you care about and want to work at, contribute.
Although that would count as cold applications, right? DM people who work at the company that you don't know. I don't know, that will not go very far. Also, this whole idea of doing networking and so on, yes, but that won't help you much as well, I think. I had a few people that I've worked with that actually applied to jobs and they got the jobs. So it's not that you're not getting any jobs. It's just you need to be early applying for the jobs and it needs to be the right fit. These 25 applications that she said before, That's where you need to focus on. You need to craft your resume. You need to go into a specific niche, and then you need to also apply for the jobs that are important. Like, you don't need to apply for an AWS data engineer job right now if you're a specialist in Databricks, right? Then just use Databricks, right? Search for Databricks jobs and get jobs at Databricks, or with that where you're using Databricks. I mean, that's very important.
To outsource whatever you can to build your brand and build your network. In this job market, your network will get you the interview and your skills will get you the offer. With all that being said, let's be honest. This is a rough period to be in.
Your skills will get you the offer. That is one of the big things. That's one of the big things, because if you apply to the right jobs and you get invited to the interview, then you have the opportunity to actually show you in the right light, show what you can do, show your experience, and give them the right impression. But only if you're in the right niche, if you're applying to the right jobs.
The job market, there's no question about it. We are in a transition phase. The industry is rewriting itself in real time, and it's uncomfortable for everyone. So I'm going to be frank right now. If you have a job, hold on to it, stay visible. That's the best you can do. And if you're looking for a job, apply, network, build proof. That's the best.
Building proof is one of the important things. Yeah.
You can do in the market right now. And you can also use that time to learn a new skill. I know.
Oh, one sec. So if you build proof and you narrow down into a specific niche, I always said, like years ago, I said, create projects that you can show on your GitHub and so on. But nowadays, it's also important to do certifications. Let's say you're searching for jobs. You're good at Databricks, but you don't have any certifications. Tune the CV to show that you have a lot of experience with Databricks. Show examples, what you have done. If you don't have the certificates, get the certificates, because the certificates you can add to your CV, they are very good for being recognized by any ATS system, the applicant tracking system. That's something that I highly recommend. And how long does it take to get a certification? Let's say you spend 3 weeks. I mean, what's 3-4 weeks? Nothing. And and don't say you don't have the time. How long are you sitting at home on the couch in the evenings and do nothing, watch TV, watch Netflix, watch Prime or Disney Plus or something? You always have time to sneak in 1-2 hours a day. I think that was the end of the video, was it?
It's not easy, but it is temporary. We'll make it to the other side, but it might take time. For the time being, just keep going and focus on what you can control. What are your thoughts? Do you think tech job market is going to get better in 2026? Let me know in comments. With that, I hope you're having a great day. I will see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.
Yeah, I don't think it will get better soon. I think it will continue in this way until companies find out that it's not that easy to replace people with AI. And until companies see that they need juniors because the seniors are going to leave at some point. And if you have no people that actually can grow into a professional role, into a senior role, then you're screwed at some point. So that is my hope. Yeah, let me know what you think. I hope this helped you a bit. Let me know questions around job application, about CVs in the comments, and I'm going to help you move forward, and hopefully get you a job soon. So, see you next time.